in many of the homework problems, you're going to see questions like, do you use t-interval or are you going to use z-interval? For some of these problems where you have to estimate the mean, construct a confidence interval estimating the population mean mu right here. So the question is like, when are you going to know to use t-interval and when are you going to know to use z-interval? The way you know to use z-interval when you're estimating a population mean comes from the fact that if you know sigma, then you can use z-interval. Now, it's not going to be often that you know sigma. Like a lot of times in real life, it's rare that you actually do know that for real life problems. And in the case where you don't know it, that's when you're going to have to use t-interval. And a lot of the problems, when you're doing them on the homework, you'll see the little symbol for sigma in the problem itself. So like they'll have that actual symbol on your homework problems. So that's how you know to use z-interval on these kind of problems, okay? So that's the one we're going to end up using. And there are a couple of conditions that do need to be met to use either one of these, like both t-interval and z-interval, that come from the central limit theorem. The requirements that need to be used are the original population must be normally distributed from the beginning, or your sample size needs to be greater than 30. That's the magic number we have been using, 30. So n needs to be larger than 30. And these are the requirements to use both z-interval and t-interval. Okay, once you realize which one you're going to use, you can then go into the problem. Now, let's look at one of these examples you have on your homework, number 10 from 7.3. But let's work through this one together, answering some of these questions about z-interval or t-interval. The first question they ask, though, what is the best point estimate for the mean salary of all college graduates who had a statistics course? Now, when you're talking about point estimates, this is actually don't involve you doing t-interval or z-interval. But that's just what is the best like single number you can tell us for the mean, like an estimate of the mean. The way what we use for when we're doing point estimates is using the fact that x bar, that's unbiased estimator, so that's why we use x bar to estimate mu anyway. The best point estimate is actually x bar itself. So you just got to figure out what the sample mean of your problem is to get the point estimate. It's just a single number that you can tell. So for this case, my mean is going to be 61,400 that they give in the problem. So this little box right here, 61,400 will be in this box. And there you have the dollar sign for you. The next one is really the question we want to get to about z-interval or t-interval. Are the requirements met in order for us to use either t-interval or z-interval in our calculator to construct a confidence interval? We know that this one, since we have sigma given in the problem, okay, we're going to be sticking with z-interval. So there's a couple of ones that say z-interval. And let's read through these. The first one, A, says z-interval because the original population is normally distributed. Let's see. It says salaries of 45 college graduates who took statistics in college have that. It don't really say anything about the college students or their data, the 45 being normally distributed, or coming from a normally distributed population. So we're not going to pick A. Let's look at the other one down below on D. Yes, we'll be able to use the interval because sample size is larger than 30. Yeah, we have salaries of 45 college graduates, so this will be your answer that you pick on this one, D bubble. Okay. Last, it says construct a 90% confidence interval. Make sure you keep in mind the 90%. Estimating the population mean mu, and write these in the space below. We're going to go to our calculator now that we know to use z-interval. We're going to pull it up. Okay, on your calculator you hit stat, then you're going to go over to test. I want to find z-interval. My z-interval is right on down here. I'm going to hit enter on that. And I want to do, not data. Data would be if I had the data for all the 45 students, but I don't have that. So I'm going to go over to stats and hit that and enter in my information. My sigma, that is 14,405. And then my x bar is going to be 61,400. And then N, I have 45 students. And then my C level, I want to do confidence interval of 90. and then just hit calculate. And we have on this problem, the confidence interval is going to be somewhere between the values of $57,868 and $64,932. And that is how you construct a confidence interval estimate for the mean, the population mean of one of these problems in 7.3.